Yes, people, it's John, it's Michael, back again, spoiling you again. 2 videos in 2 days. We did say last night you wouldn't see us till Thursday, but we've had some breaking news. We've had an exclusive interview from a Mr. John Textor to Sky Sports News with a certain Mr. Alan Myers. So listen, it's just another day in the life of Everton. Yesterday we had the highs. John Textor was mentioned yesterday. Then we had the lows of Mr. Mashiri and Usman off going to battle in court, and we still don't know what that's over. A few people in the comments last night seemed to put a few people's minds at ease to say it's already sorted, it won't drag Everton into it, blah, 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 blah. We will see, because we still don't know the full gist of that. And then today, John Textor's come out and said he signed a deal with Farhad Mashiri that runs till the 30th of November. He's expecting it to be done before then. That's when the deal runs out. He also said the deal that's in place is basically the contracts are drawn up. So all that needs to be done basically is for him to get rid of his Palace shares. The contract and the exclusivity period that's drawn up is the final signing. And then all that needs to be passed is obviously by the Premier League. He also said he wants to be in before the 30th of November because you've got an up-and-coming transfer window in January, and he doesn't want Everton bouncing around 8th if he does take over the club. Listen, I don't want Everton bouncing around where they are now. We don't want them bouncing around 10th, 12th. We do want them higher. Then he said he wants us to win a title, which, listen, he's saying all the right things, but so did a certain Mashiri. So it sounds positive. You know, there is a bit of hope there, the way he was talking. I think he was saying there's 2 interested parties in his Crystal Palace shares, and he expects that deal to go through within the next week to 2 weeks. So obviously, if that's the case, he can then push on with the Everton deal. So if that is the case, obviously there's due diligence being done going on with Everton Football Club and John Textor. So the ball's already rolling. So there's only so far you can go with a period of exclusivity when you got 45% shares in another Premier League club. But as soon as them shares have gone, he can then push on to the next stage of it. And then it's just got to be ratified by the Premier League. So listen, he is saying all the right things. Wasn't my first choice. I think people on here, subscribers, Michael himself, knows that I would have liked Dan Freakin in, but that's gone quiet. Seen a few people on Twitter saying they don't want him, but listen, that everyone's entitled to an opinion, but the way I'm looking at it, no one can be worse than the current owner of Everton Football Club. So whoever comes in, we have to give them a chance. Just give them a chance. He's saying the right thing. He wants to come in before the transfer window, basically saying he wants to spend money. I'm going to say everything that I've heard, and then obviously Michael can have his say on each topic. He also turned around and said that the rumours going around that he has spoken to other managers to take over from Sean Dyche when he comes into Everton are nonsense. He doesn't know Sean Dyche personally, but he did watch him when he managed Burnley, and he was very impressed on what he'd done with a low budget at Burnley. So he knows the Premier League. So he sort of praised Sean Dyche. Obviously, he's been watching Everton since he got involved with Everton in some way, shape or form, John Textor. But is it the dreaded vote of confidence? And I've put that on X today. You know, he's not going to come on and say, as soon as I step in them doors, he's gone. You know, we all know about the dreaded vote of confidence. So it all seemed positive what he was saying. I know I'm sounding high on this video, but we've had no bad news today regarding Everton. It's been a day of good news, so that's probably why. So I know Michael asked me to lead this video because he's been working, he's done a lot of driving, and he's basically only seen what I've sent him. So he will have a go and try and fill in the gaps and give us his opinion on what I've just said.
Like your mum's.
Brilliant.
Do you know, I've been waiting for that opportunity for about 3 weeks since you did the same about mine. What's going on, everyone? Good to see you. It's good news. It's a good day. It's a good day. You know, we sort of had this little bit of news, the yesterday morning early news, positive news, as me and John mentioned it, and then obviously this stuff with the court hearing come out. And actually, in hindsight, it actually does look like that's nothing to worry about. So you can almost scrap half of yesterday's video because it doesn't actually matter. It seems irrelevant, and Everton appear to be on the up and up. This is great news. This is great news. This is a man that's clearly passionate about football. I've watched a little bit about what he said, nothing to the lengths that John has done by, bombarding his Instagram and getting on X and, sending messages to his family. He's deep entrenched in getting to know John Textor. But the fact of the matter is, we are looking like we're going to be bought by a man that fundamentally loves football. He said it when Leon done well. He took Leon from bottom of the league to, I think, qualifying for Europe in one season. He loves football. He loves fans. He loves people. And all of that came across in the very short clip that I watched today. I think I watched 2 minutes of an interview that he's done with Sky. And he basically comes out and he says everything that I think most Evertonians want to hear. Again, John's right in what he says. We always get excited and then something blows our bubble, it tends to happen. But he's coming across as someone that just wants to get this deal done. He's excited about owning Everton Football Club. And when was the last time we heard from someone that was excited about owning Everton, excited about the project, the plan, the fixing up of Everton? He referred to us as like the White House and him being the president. I mean, he's literally coming out and going, I almost want to be the person. He used the term, and this is the line that actually got me out of everything he said about being a caretaker. So he accepts he's not the man. He accepts he'll never replace the fans. He accepts, he's never going to be the great historian of years and years and years gone by. But he just wants that little bit where he can say he owns Everton Football Club and he pushed Everton in the right direction and he wants to win a title and all sorts of positive things. And honestly, I've heard him talk today and I'll get jumpers made with John Textor on. I'm telling you now, I've completely fallen for him in that sense because I think he's a breath of fresh air. I think he's an absolute breath of fresh air, and I think he's somebody that we've needed for a long time who appears to be passionate about owning Everton Football Club because we haven't had that. We know Bill Kenwright was passionate about Everton, but he didn't run the club very well. God rest his soul, but that's the case. Farhad Moshiri then comes in, wasn't necessarily passionate about Everton and ran us into the ground. Again, awful. But this guy he's coming in, he knows he can't invest in Palace anymore. He knows he can't necessarily do what he wants to do. Palace fans, I mean, we had Rich on the show and Rich was saying, they almost wish that John Textor had a little bit more power because he seems to be one of the guys that, wants to create things, develop youth, develop the stadium and all these positive things. John Textor's literally got an open book at Everton and every single Everton fan is there ready to start writing a new chapter. Wow, that should be a quote. That should be a quote. You love that, John. Spicy, that one. I'm just so excited. And the only criticism, and John, you are right by saying this because it's that dreaded vote of confidence, but I have no issue if he's looking for a new manager, mate. I have zero issue if he's looking for a new manager because, John Textor put someone in place, Leon, who was exciting, is exciting. He changed the dynamic of that football team. He changed the manager. Can he do the same at Everton? Can he change that manager early enough? Can he excite us again? Can he bring us in that person that is going to change the way we play football? Or is he going to bring in someone that's just going to keep us up in the league? It doesn't matter to me. I'm just really infused by the fact that this is a guy that wants to get in before the transfer market, so he knows that if he needs to put some money in January, it's there to spend. Love that.
The thing is as well, he also said in that interview, carrying on from what you said about he never ever thought he'd have a chance and then Everton become available, and he never ever thought he would get a chance to be involved or buy someone like Everton. He was involved with Crystal Palace. That's no disrespect to them. And he did quite rightly say, it's like someone offer you the presidency of America and moving into the White House, you know, you don't think it's going to happen. And that's what he's saying about Everton. He said when he was in the UK, if Crystal Palace weren't playing, he'd go and watch teams like Exeter and Leyton Orient, and then Everton become available. Now, going back to what we said about the dreaded vote of confidence, I guarantee you, if we're still struggling by the time he comes in on the 30th of November or before, Dyche is gone. But it also, it gives him enough time from towards the end of November, whether it be the middle of November or the 30th of November or whatever it may be. It also gives him enough time to bring another manager in to get the club from the bottom of the league or where we are dwindling round the bottom. But it also gives another manager enough time to work with Kevin Thelwell on targets for the January transfer window as well. So the timing from when he's going to come in will work out quite right, where he's going to bring him in, you know, whether it be a new manager or whether he sticks with Dyche, and Dyche has got over this terrible start that we've had and we are moving up the table. So he is saying the right things, and as you quite rightly say, Michael, you know, he said he's going to be a caretaker, and he's not going to go back to when the Moores family owned Everton and we had Howard Kendall as manager and the glory days of the 80s and the 90s, you know, hands on heart. And I know it sounds quite negative, but I don't think we'll see Everton in that position in our lifetime. Do you know what I mean? Hopefully it'll happen for our kids, but they were great, the 80s and the 90s. And as he's quite rightly said, he wants to just build the club up and build it up. And we've said on here many times, a quick fix for Everton isn't on the books. It's not going to happen. So anyone who thinks he's going to come in with a golden checkbook and splash the cash and bring the top managers in and the top players and we're challenging for league titles in 2 years, forget it, because it's not going to happen. It's going to be a slow process, whoever takes over Everton. But as you quite rightly said before, I think the way John Textor's coming across, he wants to be the man just to give the fans that little lift and just to build some blocks that we can build the club on again, instead of being in sinking sand like we have been for years. So he wants to put the foundations in. And when you've got someone like John Textor, he's going to know people around him. And he's going to have backers, let's be honest about it. These Americans do. And you don't own 3, 4, 5 clubs. You don't buy into the Premier League if you're on your own. You do have people behind you. So there is going to be money there. And it is exciting. There was something else I was going to say, and I can't. It's gone out my head now. It's really gone out my head now. But I just think we have to take this as a positive because, you know, there's been a few videos on here lately and we have been quite negative. And we've been negative out the club, and I think quite rightly so. But when there is some positive news, it does give us a lift. And let's just hope we're not dropped again like a lead balloon, and let's just hope this doesn't fall through, because if it does, then we're starting from step one with someone to come into the club again, and we can't afford to keep doing this. He's quite rightly come in, we said it on the video yesterday, he's quite right come out and said he's going to clear the 600 million debts off. He's going to give Mashiri 50 million over 5 years, football and performance and the way the club is dependent. So he knows what he's coming into, and already before he signed on the dotted line and before he's got the keys to Everton Football Club, he seems to have a plan. And for me, that's what anyone who comes in and buys this mess, because it is a mess. Our club's a mess. It's a shit show. But anyone who comes in needs to have a plan, needs to start that plan on a footing and build it up. And it is going to take a while, but we move into the new ground, quite rightly with what he says. He wants to be in before the transfer window opens to look at targets and to work with the director of football. So he's coming in with a vision, and it's not a vision straight away for success. The vision he's got, he has looked at the way Everton have been under Farhad Mashiri and the way we've struggled. So he knows it's going to take a long time. But as you said before, he just wants to put the foundations there and give the fans a bit of excitement and give the fans a bit of their Everton back, because he can see from the outside that it's us who are suffering. And he also, that was what I was going to say before you jump in. I think I seen something yesterday that if he does come in, he's going to offer shares to fans as well. So he's going to offer a certain amount of shares to the fans to own the club. Now, I've never understood. I don't mean I've never understood why people do that. I don't know what that means. I don't know. Is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is it because he hasn't got the money for the whole 100% of the club? I don't know what that means. So I'm hoping you can put me right on that.
No, I think a lot of clubs now, and funny enough, it's quite prevalent in Germany. It happens in France, where fans have shares. I mean, Everton have shares. We've got shareholders that are independent. We've got the shareholders committee. You can see them on Twitter.
It's going to be a lot more than that, isn't it?
Yeah. So I think it's going to be more accessible to fans to own a part of Everton Football Club, whether it be a small bit or a bit of a bigger bit. But obviously, he will be the main person behind it, and fundamentally, it allows more money into the club. But it also means that, for people like us who say we bought a share and we invested in Everton, and, Everton probably as a price at this moment in time probably aren't particularly high. But in 10 years' time or 5 years' time, when Everton don't have these problems and have been playing in the stadium a few years and commercial revenue is higher, Everton will be more attractive. And your share could double. It could increase by whatever amount of money that Everton as a value goes up. So it could be really, really positive for Everton fans to do that. I certainly know that if it's relatively straightforward and it's an amount of money that is, accessible, I certainly know that I'll do it. I definitely know that I'd do it, because the only way for Everton at this moment in time is up. So I would love to get in while they're at the bottom, because his investment will only go up. I know he's talking about 600 million quid and wiping it out, and paying Mashiri 50 million quid. But fundamentally, that's it. That is it. Mashiri actually walks out of Everton with about 300 million, because he didn't put any money into Everton last year. So he was already paid 220 million by 777, which then Dan Friedkin has then paid or paid off some other loans. And then fundamentally, Mashiri gets the money that he didn't have to invest in Everton. He's got that in his pot somewhere, and he gets 50 million quid over 5 years. So Mashiri ends up happy out of this. Everton as a bet is not a bad thing, because, as I said, Spurs as an entity, probably in the last 10 years, have gone from a value of about 300 million to over easily, what was it, 2 billion quid, 3 billion quid, Spurs? This is a club that, no disrespect to Spurs, have won one Carabao Cup in 20 years and absolutely nothing prior to that. So, Spurs are, in that sense, are not that type of club anyway. So you've got Everton that have got a bit of history, are going to have a landmark on Bramley Moor, going to have an owner that is exciting and passionate and wants to drive this football club forward, with a potential manager, whoever that may be, of trying to push us forward. This is now our time to get a new man in and to make Everton commercially attractive, because we go from being nothing to everything potentially really quickly. And I'm not saying everything as in winning titles, but I'm saying the image of Everton can completely change. The brand can completely change. We no longer be this little old Everton that have always just been there. We can be this exciting, dynamic, aggressive, determined. And the reason why I think we may be all of those things is because John Textor 2 weeks ago was criticising financial fair play. He was criticising VAR. This is a man that won't just lie down. No, I'm not saying he's got the billions of pounds that Manchester City owners have and Newcastle owners have. But what he does have is passion, drive, and determination. And sometimes that's what gets you over the line. The most iconic and obvious thing for that is players like Jamie Vardy, who went to Leicester when they were bottom of the league, and he ended up winning the league title with them simply from working his arse off. It
The thing with
happens.
John Textor, Michael, and you're quite right with what you say. You know, he's come out and he's being outspoken over financial fair play and VAR. But this is what Everton need. We need a voice, and we need someone at the club who will stick up for the club. Because for too long now, we've had a board of directors, whether it be Denise, whether it be Bill Kenwright when he was there, whether it be Farhad, who just accept mediocrity, who just accept everything that's been thrown at our football club for years. And it's us fans who have suffered, because they haven't suffered, because they walked out smelling the roses. But the likes of John Textor's going to come in, and he won't put up with it. He'll stick up for Everton Football Club, but he'll also stick up for the fans as well. And that's what we need. The club has been silent for years. So if this comes, and listen, I know we sound like we're getting ahead of ourselves, and we've done this with Dan Freakin, and we've done it with 777, we've done it with Andy Bell. Something tells me this deal will happen with John Textor.
You don't come out and do an interview on Sky if it's not going to happen, Johnny. In my opinion.
Well, the thing is, you don't come out and do an interview on Sky with Alan Myers, because that's who the interview was with, and say that basically the papers that have been signed for the period of exclusivity that runs to the 30th of November, they're contract papers as well. So soon as he sells his shares in Palace, which is what I said before, the I's are waiting to be dotted and the T's are waiting to be crossed by Mashiri and John Textor. The way he was talking, the paperwork's drawn up, they've agreed on a deal. Obviously, if he sells his Crystal Palace shares. And he also said in the interview, he doesn't envisage any problem getting rid of his Palace shares. And that's where he said he expects 1 to 2 weeks that side of it would be completed. So then he can move further along with Everton and Farhad Mashiri. Then it's down to the Premier League. I just hope they're not too arsey, because he's called out VAR and he's called out FFP. But listen, I don't think they can be arsey, because if he's got the funds and he's got the proof of funds, he will pass the fit and owners test, or whatever it's called.
I'm fairly sure he would have done some of this anyway for Palace, so it's just going to be about whether he can prove that he's got the funds that he's got, and I can't imagine going this far down the line without him already doing a degree of that. And then it's just a case of the Premier League approving it. We know how difficult that can be, because the Premier League didn't approve Newcastle's owners for a period of time, for whatever political reasons. I'm not saying there's political reasons behind John Textor, by the way. I'm just saying they've proven before that they are more than happy to say no. But I think this happens. I can't see any issues. He's clearly got the money. You know, there was people on Twitter, prominent Twitter accounts, that said this wouldn't happen. And actually, for a short period of time, I couldn't work out how it was going to happen. I couldn't work out how he was going to generate the money, but clearly he has got backers. Clearly there's going to be a group. It's just exciting. It's just exciting. And it does look like the future of Everton. Finally, he's going the right way. You know, it's so good to appear to have some decent news. Then you've got the press conference tomorrow, which, no disrespect to Dyche, but you know, I don't tune in to listen to what he says, but I'll tune in to ask the question, to understand the questions that he gets asked around this transfer, the takeover. He won't answer them because he can't, but I'll still tune in, and it's going to be a nicer press conference. And you know, getting dumped 4-0 at Spurs and then playing Bournemouth at home and going, you know, what are you going to change? And then you go into that game all excited and you're 2-0 up, and in the 87th minute, they shit the bed. We end up losing. We go into a press conference. We then stew on it, by the way, for 2 weeks. And then we go into a game against Villa where we're expecting to get pegged 4-0. It's just a different atmosphere now. No matter what the result is at Villa, you almost feel like we're going in the right direction. And it's such a nice thing to feel.
You just let me know. Just give me a call when he's finished his interview, because I'm not listening to him, because I can't. So you let me know what he says, because I can't listen to him. Just one more thing I wanted to add before we wrap up. He said about the commercial side of it, when John Textor comes in and making Everton a name globally. Listen, Everton are known globally, not to the extent of Man United and our friends across the park. I know that. But when these Americans take over Premier League clubs, commercially, Michael, the Americans have always been good at the commercial side of things. You look at the baseball, you look at the ice hockey, you look at the American football. They took the American football to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. So the Americans are big on commercial side of things, which can only be a good thing, because it was only up until 2 years ago you couldn't get an Everton shirt in an airport. You could only get it in the Everton shop. You couldn't even get it in JD Sports. So, or JD Sports. So commercially, Everton have to take not the next step up, 10 steps up, because that's how poor commercially this club is run. Looks like they've done a great deal. We still don't know the figures, but if you can get on board with Red Bull, that's obviously got to be some sort of good deal. We don't know the figures yet. Don't know whether he's had a part in that, John Textor, already. But commercially, these Americans are right on the money, and that can only be a good thing as well.
Well, yeah, and equally, you know, we've signed deals with, I think they're called AMRAC or AMRAC, which are they're the world's biggest, essentially, fan experience companies. You know, the people that provide essentially the catering, the entertainment, the atmosphere around Everton. You know, we've already got fan groups that already do a lot of work in terms of, you know, creating atmosphere around the stadium. Really good work, fantastic people. Then you've got commercial deals now like Red Bull. We've got the biggest, I think it's shirt sponsor deal that we've had in Castor ever, 20 million quid, which, by the way, is 7th in the Premier League, you know, this, or 6th in the Premier League. So, you know, when you look at Everton as a brand, we're clearly still well recognised. We're clearly still respected. And then on top of that, you've got a shiny new exciting stadium on the banks of the Royal Blue Mersey. I mean, it's just, it's almost going from feeling completely negative, talking about how this club is finished. And, you know, at work today, you know, I'm there talking about the Villa Everton game this weekend, and I'm saying we're going to get absolutely done. You know, I'm dreading it. And I'm not saying I'm not dreading the game now. You know, that hasn't changed. But at least I can almost say it with a smile on my face. I don't dislike my football team. And, you know, my boss said to me last weekend, he went, "Have a good weekend." And I went, "I will, because Everton aren't playing." I mean, how bad's that? How bad is that? That, you know, we go into weeks where we're almost glad that Everton exist, but we don't want them to play because we know they're going to disappoint us. I mean, how rubbish is that? Yet now I'm up for it. You know, we'll go to Villa as a fan base and as a group of players, and hopefully as a manager. You know, I hope he almost injects some life into him. And they go, you know what, we're going to put in a performance. And look, we might not win the game. Villa are a good side. We might not even get a draw, but just don't get completely turned over. You know, put the effort in, put the graft in, show that you've got to be, you know, you're at home 2-0 up against Bournemouth, one of the best performances I've seen in a long time, which, by the way, for 87 minutes or 80 minutes maybe, Sean Dyche took credit for that because it was a good performance, but he also got it wrong with his substitutions, and the whole area, the whole game just fell to pieces under his watch. And you just hope that he and the players and the club learn from all of these mistakes, and at least from an ownership perspective, all of a sudden, I kind of feel like we're going in the right direction. The manager will be the next one. He will change. I have absolutely no doubt that in 12 months' time, even 6 months' time, Sean Dyche will not be the Everton manager unless there's an absolute miracle and he turns it round. But for me, this has been horrendous the way he started. But it sounds weird. I'm positive. Yeah, I'm actually positive.
Yeah, and you do realise there is going to be people in the comments who are saying, you know, you're getting a bit ahead of yourselves. It's one interview and this and that. But listen, Alan Myers has commented on it, and he's quite positive and confident that this deal goes through. And listen, we've done many negative videos on here. We have, and we've been shot down for that. And, you know, when we feel like there's something positive to do a video on, like today, we have. And it is a positive, you know. For me, the big thing for me is him doing a video, an interview, and saying the things that he said. We haven't had that from Dan Freakin. We didn't really get it from 777, a public interview like that. We didn't get it from Andy Bell. So this is the first time a prospective owner of our club has put his face to the camera and said what Everton fans want to hear and tried to build us up and tried to fill us with some positivity. So for me, I think that's why this video is a bit more upbeat, because we've heard from the man himself, you know, on in the media, on the television, little clips, little videos. We've seen what he wants to do. We've heard what he wants to do. So for me, that's what's made me more positive about this potential buyer. Hence why we're doing a positive video.
Mate, and realistically, you know, Everton have been in such a mess and in the dumps for so long that it's almost created this like bipolar attitude, to going completely negative and, oh my God, we're finished, to being, oh my God, we're winning the league. Mate, they could change the cheeseburgers at Goodison Park for the better, and I'll be buzzing my nipples off, because they're awful. You know, I want positive news for Everton Football Club, and I'm telling you now, this is positive. This is positive, because comparing what John Textor is saying to the lack of communication from Farhad Moshiri for the last 3 years, you know, promising us things like strikers, then delivering Neil Maupay. Mate, I am fine. Like, I am good with this, and I'm telling you now, I will suck the nectar out of all of this positivity and inject it into my little veins, because Everton Football Club appear to be going forward. And then the only issue you've got is, if it all falls apart and it doesn't happen, and his shares don't sell, and he doesn't buy Everton, and no one buys Everton, and we're still under Farhad Moshiri, I'm used to it. I'm used to the pain. I'm used to having my heart broken by this football team. I see it every weekend. I see it off the pitch. So I'm almost taking the positives and just expecting the negatives. But by God, if I've got a positive, I'm going to hold on to it. I'm going to hold on to it like Rose on top of that little floating piece of wood after the Titanic sank. And I'm just going to keep it, because we're winning the lot. And I'll sit here and be positive. In 10 years' time, this football club is not going to be this shower of shit that it is now. I'm telling you now, Everton Football Club is back. Mark my fucking words.
Well, I hope you're right, and I hope everybody else shares our positivity. As Michael's just said, you know, when there's positive news, we will be like this. We do just wait for the balloon to burst again.
Everton!
We are
never shone so brightly.
Brilliant. You know, we are waiting for the balloon to burst again. But as I said to you before, I just do feel like something may come of this because of the interview and stuff and the things he said. And we all look forward to no later than the 30th of November. Hopefully it's earlier. Get him in, get his feet under the table, let him get his own board members in. Get rid of the people who are running the club at the minute. Let him look at the playing staff. Let him look at the manager. And we go from there. But yeah, I'm feeling positive about this one. So listen, that's another video for you. We will be back tomorrow with the Aston Villa preview for Saturday, a game that me and Frankie will be at. So if you are there, come over and say hello, and we will have a pint. Michael, have you got anything else to add before you go and get your team? Because I know you've just...
It's a grand old team to play for. It's a grand old team to support. And if you know your history... Are you not joining in, John?
No, because no one's watching at this point.
Right, that's it. End the video. See you tomorrow for the match preview. Peace.
Cheers, everyone.